Conventional biomedicine treats a specific molecular lesion rather than the whole person. The drug, its action, and the disease are all defined in terms of molecular structure. This is an example of reductionism in science. The phenomena is reduced to its smallest components. In botanical medicine, on the other hand, the attempts made to understand the whole person and use a whole plant to treat the whole disease. And this is known as holism and is one of the major differences between biomedicine and complementary and alternative medicine. In order to practice herbalism in a holistic fashion, we need to have a system for recognizing and describing patterns. All traditional systems of medicine and herbalism used such patterns. For instance, traditional Chinese medicine uses yin and yang and the 5 elements. Ayurvedic medicine uses the 3 doshas and the 5 elements. Greek Arabic medicine uses the 4 elements, the 4 qualities, the 4 temperaments, and the 2 tissue states. 19th century Western herbalism used a system of 6 tissue states, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The body speaks in patterns. Before symptoms, before diagnoses, before names, there are movements, textures, and tendencies. In Western herbalism, these patterns are called the 6 tissue states: cold, heat, damp, dry, tension, stagnation. 6 ways the body can drift out of balance, and 6 ways herbs can bring it back. Today I want to show you how these tissue states form the energetic grammar of the body, and how you can see them inside the Ultimate Herbal Database. In the database, start with the main menu icon and scroll down to Introduction to Herbalism. Here we see Western Energetics, and we're looking for tissue states. Each tissue state describes a functional pattern in the body, how tissues behave, how energy moves, and what herbs are needed to restore balance. So let's take a look at them, starting with the tissue state of cold depression. Cold tissue states show up as slowness, weakness, and underactivity. For example, cold digestion, cold hands and feet, slow circulation, low vitality. Stimulants are the remedies traditionally used to treat tissue depression, and they're usually aromatic because they contain volatile oils that readily vaporize. The depressed tissue states frequently occurs in conjunction with the condition called congealed blood in traditional Chinese medicine. Cold signs in general include pale skin, constipation, dull aches and pains, pale mucus, lethargy, and slow deep pulse. Symptoms move downward. For example, as a lingering bronchial infection cools down, it moves into the lungs and becomes pneumonia. Cold moves from the periphery to the center. If we click on characteristic remedies and look over on the left, we see herbs like angelica, eastern hemlock, elecampane root, cleavers, red clover, and so on. Damp relaxation is a state of laxity. There's weak tone, leaking fluids, tissues that can't hold their shape. Think prolapse, varicosities, and boggy tissues. Matthew Wood states, this is a condition where the tissues have lost their tone, their ability to contract. As a result, they get saggy. The pores in them open up and release fluids, and there's a continual running off of fluids. Flowing dampness is marked by lots of free-flowing fluids. Sweat, urine, thin mucus. It's a condition of excess. Then when it comes to relaxation, that's one of two states associated with damp in traditional Greek medicine. The other, stagnation. In the former state, the tissues are moist. The skin's usually moist because it's an excretory organ, and water readily runs from the body. In the later case, the water gets stuck or stagnant inside body cavities, and it doesn't run, but fills them up and stays that way. So there's another type of loss of tone. The old doctors called it torpor, and it refers to heavy, waterlogged, soggy, toneless tissue. One of the qualities of relaxation is that this tissue state's characterized by watery or thin blood. As far as symptoms go, well, tissues lacking in tone, collapse, prolapse, leak fluids, free secretion of mucin, sweat, diarrhea, clear copious urine, cool clammy skin, veins may show through pallor, and lack of tone in the tissues can cause sagging, prolapse, and collapse. And if we scroll down further, we find there's some digestive disorders involving excess mucin, cystic fibrosis, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, celiac, diverticulitis. As far as the characteristic remedies, we see agrimony, cinquefoil, raspberry leaf, lady's mantle, salad burnet. Look for the astringent taste and the astringent action. There's another damp tissue state called damp stagnation. That's going to be heaviness, congestion, sluggish lymph, boggy tissues. Basically, things just aren't moving. Now, Matthew Wood explains that this is the most difficult tissue state to understand. It's a condition where the fluids just can't get out through the normal channels of elimination. They back up and tend to precipitate and thicken into catarrh, phlegm, or mucus. Later, this was called impure blood in Germany, and the American Indians called it bad blood. Today, it's frequently called toxic blood or toxic liver, similar to damp heat in traditional Chinese medicine. Stagnant dampness, swollen, weak tissues infiltrated with water and with metabolic waste. One or more of the channels of elimination may not be open, such as the skin, kidneys, colon, or lungs. Or the metabolism may be faulty. The latter may be due to low preparatory metabolism in the liver, low thyroid, or low cellular metabolism. There may also be backing up of lymphatic congestion with lowered immunity. This is the tissue state of sluggish fluids, congestion, and the body that holds what it should release. Scrolling down, we see that herbs that move and clarify stagnant damp share one or more of these actions, being an alterative, where metabolic clarity and lymphatic movement is gradually restored. Examples are red clover, burdock, cleavers, calendula. Lymphatic, such as lymphagogues, bitter herbs, aromatic carminative herbs, diaphoretics, and diuretics. There are a few case examples here. Stagnant digestion, where there's sluggish transit, fullness after meals, thick tongue coat, and the herbal direction you would use would be bitters, plus aromatics and alteratives. Another example would be stagnant lymph, showing with puffy lymph nodes, congested skin, heaviness in the limbs. In that case, the herbal direction would be the use of lymphatics and alteratives, dry atrophy. This tissue state shows up as thin, brittle, or undernourished tissues, dry skin, dry digestion, dryness from chronic stress. Matthew Wood refers to this as a lack of moisture in the tissues, while atrophy refers to weakness, wasting, or withering, and lack of function of the tissues. Dry atrophy is a condition of dryness that causes atrophy. However, dryness can exist by itself for some time before serious atrophy occurs. And there are two kinds of moisture, water and oil. Both of them are needed to cure different manifestations of dry atrophy. This is the tissue state of depletion, brittleness, and the body that's been asked to give more than it has. What it really means? Dry atrophy is the tissue state of insufficient moisture, insufficient nourishment, and insufficient resilience. It's not simply dryness. It's thinness, brittleness, withering, exhaustion, lack of internal lubrication. Here we see some physiological signatures, some of the herbal actions that address this. Think of demulcents, nutritive tonics like nettle leaf, oat straw, rejuvenatives and tropho-restoratives like milky oats, ashwagandha, codonopsis, moistening bitters to stimulate digestion while adding moisture. In that case, you would look at gentian in small doses and angelica. And then, of course, oil-rich herbs and foods like evening primrose oil, flaxseed, and chia. Another tissue state is heat excitation, and this one shows up as irritation, inflammation, redness, and overactivity. In this case, the tissues are too hot, too fast, too reactive. Back to Matthew Wood, he says, this tissue state depends for its existence on an exaggeration of function. The tissues are in a state of excitation, irritation, or overstimulation, and the appearance of heat is secondary to this tissue condition. The tissues are overperforming, overstimulated, requiring too much blood, and therefore too hot, full, red, and sensitive. The nervous system can be overstimulated as well as the blood and circulation. Heat signs include red on the skin and tongue, rashes, rapid pulse, extreme thirst, swelling when the body brings in fluid to try to cool the heat, dark, scanty urine, restlessness, and irritability. And because heat rises, symptoms will move upward, such as liver heat, producing headache and nausea, heat in the stomach, producing heartburn, and if there's an infection, the mucus will be yellow or green. This is the tissue state of irritation, overstimulation, and the spark that jumps the gap. And we'll scroll down some. You can go through the physiological signatures when you're in the database. All of this is very good, the historical context. And then moving on to the herbal actions that address heat. The herbs that cool heat share one or more of these actions. Cooling, they reduce irritation, inflammation, and metabolic overactivity. Examples are violet, plantain, and peach leaf. Sedative nervines, they calm the nervous system and slow excessive signaling. Here you're looking at skullcap, motherwort, milky oats. You may include bitter herbs that drain heat from digestion and metabolism, moistening demulcent herbs to soothe hot, dry tissue, and relaxants that release tension that heat has locked into place. Herbs like cramp bark, lobelia, blue vervain. Our final tissue state is wind tension, and this tissue state corresponds to those conditions that occur due to nervous tightening, tension, and spasm, both psychological and physical tension. It ranges from closure of the sweat pores to torsion, convulsion, and even epilepsy, including a wide range in between. Tension, spasm, chills, chills alternating with fever, sudden onset of symptoms, alternating or periodic symptoms like diarrhea, alternating with constipation, chills with fever, or even chills at a specific time, and something called backward movement like hiccup, nausea, esophageal reflux, uncontrollable movement, trembling, and shaking. Basically, the nerves are involved. As far as symptoms go, we're looking at tension of mind or body or both, and the symptoms are going to come on suddenly, and the symptoms repeat or alternate. The pathology here is excess tone in the nervous system, resulting in these symptoms of tension or constriction. Remember, it can be mental, physical, or both. It's frequently caused by psychological tension, but can also be caused by chills and fever or physiological causes. And then if we scroll down, we're also going to find here the various physiological signature clusters. Here's the core pattern. Here you'll see neurological and nerve tone signatures. I'm just going to scroll through this because I want to get to how we apply all of this. You'll also find the herbal actions that are going to be helpful. Now let's look at how we can apply this. Attached to each of the tissue states, you'll find an herbal action diagnostic flowchart, and I'm going to take you through this one for wind tension as an example. You're going to start with determining what the primary tissue state cue is. In this case, you're going to choose the strongest one, which could either be constriction and tightness, there's some examples here, erratic mobility and spasms, upward movement, for example, rising heat, wiry pulse, headaches, insomnia, nerve irritability, dryness and tension, gut wind, a nervous stomach, gas from spasmodic peristalsis. And you'll see each of those tells you where to go next. Let's say, for example, that we're dealing with a case of nerve irritability. There's a startle response, racing thoughts, sensory overload. We're supposed to go to 4. Let's scroll down to 4. And here we are with nerve irritability, hyperreactivity. And there's another question. Is the irritability mental or sensory? If mental, with racing thoughts, anxiety, insomnia, we see we're to use nerve relaxants, and here are some examples. If it's sensory, startle response, overstimulation, jumpiness, we want to use grounding nervines, and there are some examples here. When you subscribe to the Herbal Database, be sure to spend some time looking over the tissue states, their characteristic remedies, and also these useful diagnostic flowcharts. And if you liked this video, if it helped you, please remember to click the like button and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.